Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Yeah. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you. Thank you for being in class with us today. And I wanted to mention something that, this is a team effort. It's a team effort, and the team today consists of your instructors, Jonathan, who's engineering the broadcast, and a little bit of me. And the reason I say that is it's so important that we all work together. And I'm not saying that we don't. I'm saying that I am really, really pleased at how smoothly our engineers make this broadcast work. And Jonathan is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Jonathan, you do a fabulous job. You're proactive, and I really appreciate it.
I appreciate
Plus, if you'd like to call in, 866. I'm sorry, what was that?
I appreciate you too, Vince. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Class, if you'd like to call in, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to listen on your telephone, 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Your instructor today at the front of the classroom is Glenn Parnham, ihsite.com, ihsite.com. And here's what we're going to be talking about. So, have you had breakfast this morning? Maybe Original Cheerios, maybe Wheaties, Trix. I don't think you've had Trix, class, but Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Kellogg's Raisin Bran. That ought to be good for you, right? How about Special K? If you want to lose weight. How about Ritz Crackers? Triscuit crackers. Maybe some of you know someone who knows someone who knows someone that might have had some Oreos, right, for breakfast. Well, if you did, you have had alleged food products that have tested positively for glyphosate contamination. Yeah. So get that, cancer slowly, cookie by cookie, spoonful by spoonful. And Glenn Parnham's with us, and he's going to talk about exactly what we've been doing to our food supply. Well, not us, them. I'm talking about the treasonous class, those who have been poisoning the world with glyphosate. Welcome, Glenn Parnham.
Thank you, my brother. And for people who may not have heard the word glyphosate, that's called Roundup Ready Weed Killer. And what we're going to talk about today is the biggest health explosion, truth bomb, whatever you want to call it. If your listeners haven't heard me before, and I just want to say this because I'm going to say some things as a research scientist. I am director of research for international health. We've been based in Arizona 30 years. I was just thinking back on that, and November of 1988 is when we formed International Health. I've been director of research, and I do consultations. I've been helping people for decades wean off their medications and find out what's going wrong. But what we're going to talk about today, I would call it the equivalent, because it's been talked about for years. Monsanto Corporation, which, has the nickname in the industry of Monsatan Corporation. They have been voted the most evil the chemical company on planet Earth. And, oh, by the way, they just merged with who I consider to be even a more criminal organization called Bayer Corporation. And before Bayer was named Bayer, they were named IG Farben. They were the Nazi chemical company who was run by the Nazis. They're the ones who invented and manufactured all the mustard gas derivative to kill everybody in the concentration camps, funded by the Rockefellers, the Bush family, and the Rothschilds. Now, what you're going to hear today is not opinion. This is all historically proven. I'm a research scientist, and so everything I'm going to tell you, I can back up with pure medical science, pure history. So when I say I.G. Farben was run by the Third Reich, you can look it up. And after World War II, the Rockefellers came in and said, what are we going to do with this technology of this mustard gas derivative? And Rockefeller said, well, we'll just convince the cancer industry that it's good to treat cancer. And it's now called chemotherapy. So they have just merged with Monsanto, who, I'll be 68 next month. So there's a lot of people my age who are in the Vietnam era. They are the company who, invented Agent Orange. And I talk to people every month, vets who have cancer and have terrible diseases from that. But anyway, for years, there have been accusations against this Roundup Ready weed killer, and, that it causes cancer and this and that. Thousands and thousands of lawsuits worldwide. But now it's blown up because the first of the major lawsuits went to federal court. It was a groundskeeper. He works at a California high school. He was spraying Roundup Ready on the grass every day, just like millions of Americans do, millions of farmers do every day. He has a deadly cancer. His doctors are giving him 30 days to live. But during the discovery phase, his lawyers made Monsanto, and they had some secret papers that they've known. Now listen to me. Since 1981, that's 37 years ago, they have known that exposure to glyphosate, Roundup Ready, in parts per billion, not parts per million like our Super Silver product, parts per billion cause cancer, and I'm going to read you 14 other diseases that they now know it causes, and because they were forced to release this documentation, the punitive damages awarded to this family, whose husband will be dead very soon, $289 million. Well, with the discovery of that, I have been talking to research companies for years who had tested everyday food, and they hadn't done all of the testing, but the list that they had, they were afraid to release it because of the legal power of Monsanto, and they didn't want to get sued. Now that Monsanto got their butt kicked in court, and this is what you started to read from, and if people will call me at my research office. Now, I'm in Arizona. That's West Coast time right now. We're 3 hours behind East Coast, 2 hours behind Central. Call me at 480-429-0021. Write that down. I will email you these articles, because that list that you started to read from, and the list, hundreds of products, everyday products, that have been now proven and published to be infected and sprayed with Roundup Ready. And if some of you people out there have wondered the same way I have for years, because I hear it every day. I do free consultations 6 to 8 hours a day. So if you call that number, if you have been told you have some disease, we'll talk about it. I don't charge, for what I do. I've been doing it almost 30 years, But I have been on other radio shows, and I always ask the question, how come all the kids have cancer? Here in Phoenix, we have the Phoenix Children's Hospital, and all they do is parade out these bald children whose parents are so frigging ignorant, who didn't look into what chemotherapy is, and all they do is ask for money. But not one newscast has ever asked the question, how come all these children are getting cancer? Yeah, and then you see the ads for St. Jude or whatever they're called, Now we know there is no question anymore that the exposure of all these breakfast cereals. And the good news is Monsanto isn't the only one who's being sued. General Mills just had a huge lawsuit filed against them because they knew that their Cheerios and Honey Nut Cheerios, which is on the list, had terrible levels of Roundup Ready. But you're talking Wheaties, Trix, organic. The list of organic products on here that we've been lied to about, okay, and certain, gluten-free products, but Kellogg's Corn Flakes, and we're already seeing ads on the local TV, and I saw my first national ad of the law firms. And you've been seeing them advertise for a couple of years. If you have mesothelioma, which is lung cancer caused by exposure to asbestos, because the asbestos industry knew that anybody exposed to asbestos was going to end up with lung cancer, but it would take 20 years to show up. Well, they got caught, and they had to put about $35 billion into a pool. That's why you see the ads from the law firms. Now, within 1 week of this decision against Monsanto and Roundup Ready, you already had law firms with TV ads. If you or a loved one have cancer and were exposed to Roundup Ready, call our office. Well, now all the lawyers are just chopping at the bit, because when you see this list, all of and you mentioned Corn Flakes, Raisin Bran, Kashi Organic Promise, Cheez-It, okay, Ritz Crackers, Triscuits, Oreos, okay, organic oatmeal, and this list. I will email you this list. Call me at 480-429-0021, because it goes all the way through Little Debbie's oatmeal cream pies, organic golden round crackers. Okay, these are a bunch of lying scumbags who have known this, that parts per billion of this Roundup Ready would cause cancer. Okay, and that's bad enough. And in fact, I know, and I've got a, mid-sized hospital that's probably 15 minutes from me. I've had some ultrasound work over there, so I know everybody on the floor. So I printed up about 10 of these articles, took them over, okay, to the ultrasound floor because I wanted to give it to them, okay? And they're running crazy over there. And I said, what's going on that you're so busy? 28 ultrasound-guided cancer biopsies scheduled that day at a mid-sized hospital. I said, is that average now? They said it's between 25 and 35 biopsies a day. I hear the music. We'll continue when we come back.
Yeah, and at some point during this broadcast, we'll talk about Mr. Monsatan, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. Glenn Parnham's with us. We'll be right back. Glenn Parnham's with us. Website, site.com. Phone number 480-429-0021. We're talking about Monsatan. And I believe that Dr. Norman Shealy came up with that term many, many years ago. Monsatan. USA Prepares Senior Instructor, Norm Shealy. Okay, so let's continue this discussion, and I'll tell you a little bit about Mr. Monsatan himself, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri.
So, here's what I'm pleading for your audience to do, because this and I've been on the phone with a dozen research scientists that I know. Again, I've been doing this almost at least 30 years in November, so I've come to know a lot of my colleagues. Okay, and asking them, there's so many detox products, but I told them, look, I don't want to have to tell people that there's 10 different things they need to do, to have this poison out of their body. But, the first thing is the education, especially you women. Who controls the economy by purchasing the food? It's mostly women. And when you get this list, and I expect you to get the list, if you are too damn lazy to call in and ask for the email to be sent to you, then print off some copies. Take it into the manager of your grocery store and say, excuse me, I'm not going to spend another dime of my money at your store until you get this poison off the damn shelves, and then you let every woman you know and every women's groups, and the lawyers are already ramping up, and they're going after the cancer part, because I'll tell you, on the list, you'll also see women's feminine feminine hygiene products. Now, what started International Health 30 years ago was my wife and I traveling the country teaching women about what's called bioidentical hormones, which at the time was a brand new industry because the pharmaceutical cartel was pushing Premarin, pregnant mare's urine, horse estrogen, and other crap on women that caused cancer and heart attacks and strokes, and they yanked it off the market. Now they're back selling it, okay? But think of the feminine hygiene products, Kotex, Tampax, that you put in a very sensitive area. The cotton is all GMO and is sprayed with glyphosate, Roundup Ready, and you're putting it, and I get calls every day because I do the free consultations. Every day, older women have the uterine cancer, but their daughters are getting fibroids and endometriosis and just terrible problems. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, so please call me, and I'll get this list out to you. Now, we're not just talking cancer. Here is why this will become the biggest health news and the biggest probably lawsuit nationwide, worldwide, because there's already other countries doing it. Here are the other diseases proven to be caused by exposure to Roundup Ready. Okay, and it's from a article on EchoWatch. Okay, ADHD. Look at all the learning disability in children, and they found out that women who are exposed to Roundup Ready 2 years before they get pregnant, it has a much higher chance of brain damage of their children 2 years ahead of time. But ADD, Alzheimer's, birth defects, all this Zika stuff that went around like a couple years ago, and it showed the children with half of their head missing and the brain, and that was a cover-up because that's Roundup Ready that causes that. Autism, off the charts, the birth defects. Brain cancer, #1 killer of our children, because you add Roundup Ready along with the electromagnetic frequencies from cell phones and cell phone towers. Okay, breast cancer, cancer general. Celiac and gluten intolerance, which has become epidemic, all right, because when Roundup Ready, and you eat the food, and you must know what the food is so you can get it out of your diet. That's the first step. It kills all of your good gut bacteria. When you do that, two things happen. There goes 80 to 90% of your immune system, okay, from God. That's why the good bacteria is there. And then that's where about 80 to 90% of the feel-good brain hormone is also made in your good gut bacteria. Okay, that gets destroyed. So, okay, and there's all your depression and anxiety that's out of control. That's exactly been proven to be caused. And there's other ones that I hear the music. So we'll finish this list when we get back.
Glenn Parnham's with us. International Health, IHSITE.com. We'll be right back. We're talking about Roundup Ready. And I've got on my list ADHD, ADD, Alzheimer's, birth defects, autism, brain cancer, breast cancer, celiac disease, gluten intolerance, depression, anxiety, and there's more. Glenn, are we also talking about irritable bowel syndrome that so many people have? Is that part of this as well?
Yes. Okay. It's the next on the list. And again, I'm going a little bit fast. This is why I'm telling people, please call me. There's no way they can write all this down. They don't have to. I'll email them the list. They can print it out. They can show their church members. They can show everybody that they care about. And the biggest thing I'm going to say, and I don't mean to step on any toes, I am a Christian, okay? And I've had a ministry for decades called Biblical Health. And I didn't travel as an evangelist. I traveled as a watchman on the wall, trying to educate ignorant people, my people perish for lack of knowledge, about who really runs the world, okay? And this is part of a huge plan of world depopulation, make everybody sick so it's easier to take over. You get this list, you become a watchman on the wall. And it clearly says if you know this sort of destruction is coming, if you know all these foods poison people and poison the children, and if you don't warn their parents about it, their blood is on your hands. So please, If you get the voicemail when you call it, just because I'm doing a lot of radio shows, I'm doing the consultations. Leave your name and telephone number, and if you have an email, spell it out for me, and I'll send it. Because when we look at the rest of these diseases, chronic kidney disease, epidemic, colitis. See, you don't wake up one day with all of these terrible gut problems. It's a series of events. First, you'll have heartburn. Then, it'll get worse because it's inflammation, and people, well, I'll just take Tums, the worst poison you can take. You don't cover up gut problems because that just means inflammation gets worse and worse, becomes irritable bowel syndrome, GERD, gastric reflux, and then colitis, and that's on this list because when you destroy the good gut flora, not only will your immune system absolutely go wacky, inflammation takes over in the body, and even the medical cartel, the most evil cartel on planet Earth, has medical studies that they've had for decades saying, we know the root trigger of all inflammation. And they even admit all diseases are caused by inflammation. Well, thank you for that, but what's the root trigger? Undigested protein. And when your good gut flora gets destroyed by antibiotics in food or taking it or drugs, so colitis, depression you already mentioned, here we go, epidemic levels at all ages, diabetes. Absolutely proven to cause by Roundup in the food. Heart disease, another epidemic. Low thyroid, I hear from people every day, well, I've been diagnosed with low thyroid, and then the drugs that the doctors put them on are the most toxic synthetic crap you can imagine, and then inflammatory bowel disease, leaky gut. 90% of the population in this country has leaky gut, and it simply means that the gut has become, it's got holes in it, and whole food particles and glyphosate, Roundup Ready, and all these poisons, instead of being digested and going out the back door of the temple, if you understand what I mean, they leak through the gut directly into the bloodstream and cause massive inflammation, and there comes all of your other diseases. So, let's see, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, liver disease, Lou Gehrig's, ALS, multiple sclerosis. I'm getting calls every day. It's getting worse and worse because that's the demyelinization of the nerves. That's what Roundup does. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that's the main form of cancer. That's what this guy in California is dying from, who got 289 million. And by the way, 250 million of that was punitive damages directly against Monsanto. Parkinson's disease, if you have older relatives or your parents and they're starting to show up with MS and Parkinson's, infertility, miscarriages, and stillbirth. They know it, The breast milk of pregnant women was tested. 100% of them had Roundup Ready in their breast milk. And they feed that to their children, and they wonder why there's an epidemic of cancer. Obesity. Oh, my God. Go to a mall, and the next time you're in a group of people, notice the amount of obesity. And even in younger people, getting bigger and bigger. Now, it's bad food. You can't eat McNugget burgers and Kentucky Fried Cancer and that and not expect to get fat without exercise. Reproductive problems. I hear it every day. Been trying to get pregnant. Can't do it. Well, now we know. Respiratory illnesses. I'm hearing people never smoked, and they have asthma. They have all these other problems, even lung cancer. I never smoked in my life. Well, but you ate Roundup Ready food and exposed to the chemtrails. See, this isn't just one thing. It's the first major thing that got nailed, and I'm praying that the first thing is get this crap out of your diet, The next thing is, depending on any symptoms that you're dealing with, that's why I want you to call me at 480-429-0021. We'll go over what you're dealing with, and then a few things that you need to do to detox this, glyphosate. Because one of the things they found out, within 10 minutes of eating any food with Roundup, it goes directly into your bone marrow. Gee, what happens to your bone marrow? What's that for? Well, that's to make your red and white blood cells. And what do they call cancer of the blood? Leukemia. Leukemia rates are skyrocketing. Why? And again, when you see the list of the food, now there's no question why anymore, Vincent. And that's why this is such a bombshell from the standpoint, okay, now we know, okay, now we can do something about it. And I use the analogy, your car really starts to run bad, and it's a gasoline-powered car. And you find out, and there's an article in the paper that says, oh, gas station at such and such was replacing gasoline with diesel fuel, and people with gasoline cars were pumping diesel fuel into their car, and they had all these breakdowns. Well, that's what now has happened. These companies know exactly what they've been doing. This is all part of a very large plan, but now that we know, you can get the poison out of your diet, detox, okay, pass the word on, and then my next research project that I have started is to find the companies that are right now glyphosate tested. There's a few, but if enough women start to protest and tell all the women's groups they know and the churches and everything else that say, excuse me, go talk to the grocery store, threaten lawsuits, okay, because, and this huge lawsuit suit that's been filed against General Mills is now going to force either making Roundup Ready illegal, which it has in all the other countries around the world. Why not here? Because Monsanto and Bayer own almost all the politicians. So you mentioned your politician there. I'm going to take a break. Please tell your audience about your wonderful politician who's in the pocket of Monsanto.
Okay, so Senator Roy Blunt. Now, I know this guy. I met this guy. He came to an event, and there may be 20 of us. I happen to be in the media, so I got a chance to see this guy perform. And if you look up Roy Blunt, B-L-U-N-T, he's a senator. He's a Republican. He's of the Republican Crime Syndicate in Missouri. And he's on the Appropriations Committee, Commerce, Science, and Transportation. He's on the Rules and Administration. He's the Rules and Administration Chairman. And so he has accumulated, between the years of 2013 and 2018, according to OpenSecrets.org, $15,973,690. So $16 million. He spent $15.3 million. Leaves him about $750,000 cash on hand, according to this report of 6/30/2018. So where does the money come from? The Crawford Group. I went head-to-head with the Crawford Group. They are rough. I mean, they are really rough. So they gave him $113,000. Goldman Sachs, $79,000. Jones Financial Companies, $73,000. Bayer AG, Monsatan, $67,000, and Capital One, $64,800. Now, when I say these names, Crawford Group, Goldman Sachs, Jones Financial, Bayer AG, and Capital One, does that all sound like great companies with great reputations? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. So that is Roy Blunt. He has taken money from these companies. And he is Mr. Monsatan. He's the guy that has been protecting Monsatan from lawsuits.
Not anymore.
So when you think about, and he's up for re-election in 2022. Throw him out. Throw him out. And when you see, just look up Roy Blunt, B-L-U-N-T. See his smiling face. It looks like evil incarnate to me. It does. I don't like him. I met him, and I don't like him. I never liked him.
Well, and the news, you can certainly understand, because I use the, analogy, if anybody's ever seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, where the curtain got pulled back, because that's what a few politicians are doing. I'm very apolitical. I don't trust any of them, federal, state, or local. Okay, but the curtain is being pulled back, because God's word says everything hidden is going to be exposed. And look what's being exposed. The deep state's been around for at least a century, the pedophilia in the church and in certain churches and that. I mean, just the influence. They own all the politicians because there's so much money. Why haven't they made, like, GMO foods? They know. Because who's making trillions of dollars? The largest criminal cartel in the world called Big Pharma. So thank you for that. And we'll finish this up when we come back. I hear the music again.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the Catholic Church is serving a Roundup Ready communion to its parishioners. We'll be right back. So, class, I was very interested in communion wafers containing glyphosate. So I went to the internet, change.org, and it has a paragraph that says anyone, I'm going to read just part of it, anyone consuming products containing wheat in the UK, including pita, crumpets, muffins, tortillas, tacos, donuts, cakes, cookies, biscuits, crackers, croutons, packet snacks, rusks, waffles, pancakes, crepes, pizzas, pretzels, breadsticks, communion wafers,
bingo,
pasta, pastry, wheat, beer may be exposed to cancer-causing glyphosate. There you have it.
They wouldn't do
so
that
that's
on
in the UK,
purpose,
and it's worse. It's worse in the United States. Please continue.
All wheat, and that's why my next research project that I've started is, and what this movement, if enough people will call me and enough people get this information out, it will force the food companies, because, on some of their packaging now, you'll see the label, certified non-GMO, okay, where I know of a couple of companies who are certified non-glyphosate, okay, and there's already ads coming up. If you're a food manufacturer, you have to go through several steps. But if enough consumers wake up, what you just said, think of everything. All wheat products, and then, it's like I have so many people who have asked me over the years, well, what's the best thing for breakfast? I said the only thing cereal-wise would be a steel-cut oatmeal. And at the time, I thought Bob's Red Mill steel-cut oatmeal was the best. It's on the list of being loaded with Roundup Ready. So I was wrong, okay? And that's why it's going to be so important, because I don't want people to get frustrated and say, well, what can we eat? I might as well eat it. I'm going to die anyway. If you get that attitude, that's fine for yourself. But if you feed this, and to your children or to your grandchildren, okay, and allow them to eat this crap, and I don't care if the children, I like my cereal. I don't give a damn. When you live in my house, you're going to eat what I put in front of you, okay? Because I've already had some parents say, well, but, my children won't eat anything else. I said, gee, who runs the house? You or your children, okay? But this is huge. If people will get behind, see, that's what I love about your show. That's why also millions of other people are loving your show, because you're telling the truth and you're exposing things, and the only way we are going to change any of this, because all these corporations care about is money. So if we cut them off at the knees and tell the grocery store managers, if you keep selling this crap, and they now know, and also, if you live in an area where you haven't seen the ads on TV, you can go on an internet search engine and just type in lawyers handling Roundup Ready cases, okay? And you'll probably get a list, all right, because I saw a whole big long list. Because as much as I don't like lawyers, in this case, I want them to cut these companies off, okay? Now, even if they have to put in $500 billion, that's pocket change to these companies. They don't care, but they will care if enough people sue the food companies, okay, because they've known what this Roundup Ready would do since 1981, and it goes back long before that. I have a book, and I will be happy to email the cover of it and the explanation. It's called The Age of Treason, written in 1958, and it was written by a doctor who we would call a whistleblower, but he was told by the New World Order people back then, the ones who run everything, what they were going to do to the food to accomplish two things: to make people sick and die younger, and to feminize the men. And gee, all you got to do is watch TV and watch what's going on with the feminization of men. They said they were going to do two things: put in estrogen into the food and antibiotics to make everybody sick. Have they accomplished it? Yeah. Please call me at 480-429-0021. If you get the voicemail, just leave your name and number and your email, and I'll get all this information to you. And I want to thank you, Vincent, for what you do, because people better listen to your ads too. If people are sitting around not preparing, we are in a very precarious situation in this country. Something you can already see it. You can feel it in the atmosphere. And for those of you who are praying Christians, you know what's coming, and people better prepare. Okay, so anyway,
we're out of time.
Bless you,
Thank
and
you
just keep
so
up
much
the good
for
work.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares class. Just a quick announcement. If you want to see what Vinny looks like, I was on stage a few days ago at the Laclede Board of Directors annual meeting. And if you want to see what it looks like when the lawyer for Laclede Electric tries to get me off stage, and if you want to see my reaction to that, you can go to USA Prepares, USAPREPARES.com. USAPREPARES.com. And there's a post that says Vincent Finelli versus Laclede Electric Board of Directors 7-minute video annual meeting. Click on that. Then there's a link that can take you right to YouTube. Or you can just type in YouTube, at your favorite search engine, YouTube, Vincent Finelli, Finelli, Laclede, LACLEDE, and you'll see it there too. So please share that with your friends and family, and you'll see what is wrong with America in a microcosm. Okay, how big corporations like the utility conglomerate, you can't do business without them. You are stuck, and you don't have a choice as to where you buy electricity from. You're going to buy it from the company that provides electricity to your location. That's it. No choice. And if you try to run against them, you're going to see what happens. Right in that 7-minute video. Captain John Regan's with us. John, it's so good to be broadcasting with you. Thank you for joining us today.
We'll see if you feel that way after this hour.
You're going to wipe that smile right off our faces, right? Yeah. I've been with you in person, and I've said that, Captain John Regan's with us, and he's going to wipe that smile right off your face with the truth. With the truth. And as they say on Republic Broadcasting Network, you can handle the truth.
Well,
okay,
since
John,
hour one was talking about health, I think we'll go ahead and lead off with that. If you're following along in the resources I posted, I had economy first, but hey, I'm flexible. How about you? Well, I only want to correct one thing from hour one. The word is glyphosate. And I know it's one of those tricks our brain plays. We hear about phosphates quite a bit. And so when we get this word thrown in front of us, our brain, puts that pH in there. But there's no pH in there. It's glyphosate. And no matter what you call it, it's still as deadly. So I came across some new information just yesterday. It was posted in a diabetes group, but it was on iron. And that's the first video I have linked under the health where Dr. Levy talks about iron and gluten. And there were 2 new iron takeaways on that. And I've not had time to go in and look at the study, but the study showed where frequent blood donors had a ferritin level of 17, whereas infrequent blood donors had a ferritin level in the mid-50s. and there was quite a difference in the health of those two groups. So what I've been working off before, and we've talked about this in earlier shows this year, where the belief of 30 to 60 being the optimum range for ferritin, that may be too high. And apparently, so long as your hemocrit and hemoglobin is fine, having a ferritin level of less than 25 may be advantageous, and I'm looking into that, and I may go get another pint of blood taken, because mine's running just over 60 right now, and another pint should put that into the range that Dr. Levy was talking about. The second video up there, do-it-yourself hydrogen water, is something that I'll be trying soon. I've ordered everything I need that's in this video on putting elemental hydrogen into the body. And this makes a lot of sense to me. What this does is the hydrogen acts as an antioxidant. And, you know, Dr. Shealy's talked about vitamin C and then other products out there that are antioxidants, and it goes after the free radicals and binds with them and helps reduce the damage that's being caused in your body. Well, the nice thing about hydrogen is that when it does that process, you're combining hydrogen with oxygen, and it's producing water as the waste product, and your body handles that quite nicely. The trick is, how do you get hydrogen into your body? Inhaling it doesn't do very much. It's not even easy getting it into water. There's ways of doing that. For example, they have these tablets you can put in water, and it'll get you 1 part per billion or a little bit more. This video shows a way where you can make it, ends up being more inexpensive than any other option I've seen out there. And you can get concentrations of 3 parts per billion. And in addition to working as an antioxidant, a lot of people are reporting increased energy and reduced pain. And, you know, once I get a chance to try that out, I'll let you know what I find out. I've also have in the notes for today, Walk-In Lab is running a 15% off sale for everything on their site. This goes through midnight Pacific time on the 4th with the coupon code WORK, W-O-R-K. And I've got a link there, and, you know, the FTC demands that I let you know if you use that link. I do get a small commission. Doesn't affect the price you pay. And I do appreciate if you use that link, because every little bit helps. I've put a list of some of the tests you may want to consider. Obviously, they have just dozens and dozens of tests available. And the only test I haven't personally done is doing the 2-hour test to see what my glucose and insulin does over time. All the rest I've done, the serum ferritin, which shows you your iron storage, the A1C, which shows you your average blood sugar over the last 2 or 3 months. And if you're getting out of whack on that, then you know just how bad you are. And this is, when you get the higher A1Cs, that's the final stages of the problem. It starts off much earlier with inflammation, increased insulin, and then your blood sugar starts getting out of control. Fasting blood glucose, that's what you're currently getting, versus A1C, which is the average. Fasting insulin, which shows where you're at first thing in the morning. And like I say, your insulin will go out of control before your blood sugar does. The 25-hydroxy test, which shows your vitamin D level, and Dr. Shealy's done lots of shows talking about what your vitamin D level should be. And the basis, which was even talked about last hour, inflammation, doing the high sensitivity CRP test will show you what your inflammation level is in the body. So that's just a list. This may or may not be cheaper than insurance. You may be able to submit it to insurance. You do not have to go to a doctor unless you live in 5 states in the Northeast. In most states, you just go online, you select what you want to have, and it's still ordered by a doctor, but the doctor says, if you want it, I'll let you do it. This is among the best prices I've found on the Internet, plus now you get the 15% off. The nice thing is you don't even have to use it right away. You've got 6 months, and even if you don't use it in 6 months, you have up to a year from date of purchase to get another 6 months. But, I highly recommend you find out where you stand, because if you don't know where you stand, you don't know what you need to take care of. And I'm going to take a breath and let you comment before we start talking about cancer. Vincent?
Yeah, I've got a comment about the inflammation level in the body. That's something that we all need to know about. And you mentioned a test for that. What is that test called, Captain John Regan?
That's the high-sensitive CRP, C-reactive protein. Mm-hmm. And obviously the higher it is, shows the more inflammation is going on. It doesn't differentiate between acute and chronic, so there are some things that happen to you that can cause short-term inflammation, which is part of the body's healing process. It's when it goes long-term, and we talked about some of the things last hour that's causing inflammation in your body. Sugar is also another thing that's thrown in there, causes inflammation. Mm-hmm. And even what's considered normal for the test is still really too high. But at least you know where you stand, and then you can figure out what do you need to change, what foods do you need to eliminate, what supplements do you need to add in order to get that number down.
And what does that test cost with the company that you're recommending? Do you have a number offhand?
I did not look up the prices of the tests. Many of these tests are like in the upper 20s. I believe the 25-hydroxy is like 58 or something like that. Okay. But again, that's
so
the standard price, and you get 15% off.
Is it?
Yeah.
And we come back. Tell us one more time, please, exactly how we can make sure that you get credit for this and how we get the 15% off. Captain John Regan's with us. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us. TheFinancialStateOfTheUnion.com. TheFinancialStateOfTheUnion.com. Captain John, you were talking about the lab tests online. How do we get the discount? What is the code? How do we make sure you get credit for this?
Okay. Go to my website on the news tab. I have a post for resources for USA Prepares, August 31st. And I know the financialstateoftheunion.com is awfully long. You can get there by much shorter website, 5 characters, EZE33.org. It stands for Ezekiel 33. That's my Watchman hat website versus my financial. And the news tab of that is the exact same place. So either way gets you to the post. And in the post, right at the start of the list, there's a link you can click, or there's a banner at the bottom. Either one of those will get you to the website, and I get credit for getting you there. Regardless of whether you give me credit or not, the coupon code is WORK, W-O-R-K, and that's even on their website. So, once you're on their website, you've got the information to get your 15% discount.
Very good, very good. Okay, please continue.
Well, I talked that I've received a private video from Dr. Tennant, and I wish I could share it, but I don't have permission to give out the password. I went in. It's basically the first hour of his advanced training, which I've never been to. And I've got basically a full page, double-spaced, of bullet points for 45 minutes of that. So we're definitely not going to get all that today, and it's going to take me a few hours to get this into a written form to put in the references where you can understand what's going on. But I want to touch on some of the highlights out of here, and one of the big things that affected me is that, I've always thought of cancer as something that's bad that happens to the body, and I'm talking about cancer tumors. Blood cancer, he didn't discuss, and, that's a little bit of a different animal. But with tumors, what it really looks like now is cancer is the body's way of keeping organs alive. It's basically the last-ditch effort because the condition has gotten so bad that the cancer brings in an increased blood flow. And how he started off, and when he started this, I didn't know where he was going. He started talking about the placenta. And after he went through that discussion, he talked about how doctors in 1903, so more than 100 years ago, knew that the placenta and cancers look and act the same. And that's kind of stunning when you think about it. With the placenta, what it's there for is to give the environment for the baby to grow. And at day 54, give or take a day or two, the polarity of the placenta changes from negative, which is where cancer forms, to positive. And that also happens to be the point where the fetal pancreas begins to work. Now, with placentas and with cancer tumors, they produce nagalase, which shuts down the immune system. So it basically protects placenta and the baby from the immune system attacking it. Well, the cancer's working the same way. It's preventing the immune system from attacking it because it's trying to bring the resources in to keep your organ going. And unfortunately, we don't correct the problem. And by the time we typically find out there's a problem, the cancer itself has caused other problems, much like inflammation. And I guess we'll talk about inflammation after the break.
Yeah, Captain John Regan's was absolutely fascinating, John. I am glued to listening to what you're saying. Absolutely riveting. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan, EZE33.org. Well, that smile's gone from my face. Captain John's with us. And we're talking about cancer. John, please continue.
I'm trying to get through this as quick as I can because I really do want to get to the financial things. Last time I was with you, we talked about how to attack cancer tumors because they need a lot of glucose. In fact, cancer is very inefficient at using glucose. It takes 18 times as much to produce its energy as the mitochondria does with the ADP inside your normal cells. So when you've got the insulin resistance, which leads to high blood sugar and diabetes, it's that high blood sugar that helps feed cancer tumors. So you get that down, it helps starve them off. We talked about how glutamate helps with the feeding of cancer tumors as well. So that's good for actually trying to get rid of the tumor. The thing is that doesn't fix what the initial problem was. And what Dr. Tennant has researched is 96% of these tumors appear on the acupuncture meridian of a root canal tooth or a cavitation. Cavitation is an infection of the bone. I think most of us have had our wisdom teeth removed, so when you have a tooth removed, unless the dentist does a good job of cleaning things out, you can end up with an infection, and that infection travels slowly. So it's either that meridian or the meridian next to it. It's where 96% of the cancers appear. And let me go ahead and finish off with inflammation. Inflammation is part of the healing process. I think most of us has probably used a hammer and nail at one time, and instead of hitting the nail, we hit our thumb. And after doing a little dance and saying a few words, we end up with a nice, red throbbing thumb. Well, that's acute inflammation. Your body is sending more blood there so it can do repair work. And, that's great. That's the way it's supposed to work. But with everything we've got going on with toxins and sugar and everything else, we're suffering chronic inflammation in different parts of our body, which leads to insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes. It leads to coronary heart disease. It leads to leaky gut. It leads to cancer. Like we said last hour, inflammation is the basis of so many of our chronic diseases that we have now. And I did forget to bring up one thing about iron from that video. And you were talking about cereals. A lot of the iron that's being fortified in these is iron filings. It's not even a decent form of iron, which your body probably doesn't need the iron anyway. The iron ends up being toxic and causes inflammation and on and on. But he even shows where he took several packages of oatmeal, added water, put it in a blender, and then he extracted the iron filings out of it. That type of iron causes inflammation, among other things, and the iron overload causes many of the same types of damage as the fructose does to your body as well. So, just wanted to share
John Regan,
all of
let me just ask you a quick question. So we do a lot of work on vehicles here at the farm, and we pull the transmission oil pans down, and in the oil pan is a magnet. And as the gears mesh with each other and so forth, little tiny bits of metal come off into the transmission fluid, and they are attracted by the magnet. Are you saying, and these magnets grow beards, and these would be iron-type metallic beards on the magnets. Are you saying that if I took a really strong magnet, put it on the side of a glass or plastic blender vessel, and blended some oatmeal, I would see a beard of iron? Is that what we're talking about?
That looks to be pretty close to what this doctor did, and you can see the results of it in the video.
Okay, I've got a really strong magnet. I've got a blender, and I've got some oatmeal. Yeah, I'm going to try.
It wasn't a small amount. I think he used like 9 packets of instant oatmeal, and added water, blended it, and like I say, extracted the iron.
Okay, so this is instant oatmeal, or is it just instant oatmeal that I should be testing? Because I'd have to go out and buy that.
He did that. What you're looking for is that it's iron fortified, which a lot of these products are now.
Yeah, okay. So that's what we do. We take the cars, we crush them, we grind them up, and put it in oatmeal. I got it. Okay. Yes.
And drink your fluoride, too.
Wash it down with fluoride. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things I wanted to bring out. One, especially since it's an election year, point out that, there's no way in heck that Social Security and Medicare can be fixed. And, in fact, we can't even keep it from getting worse. And the other thing I wanted to bring out is where we are getting as an economy. When I published the Financial State of the Union, and in a couple of months will be the 5th anniversary, I just couldn't believe we could have gone this long without the collapse happening. And the only reason we've made it this long is because of tens of trillions of dollars of brand new debt. And we're now standing at $247 trillion of debt worldwide. I don't want to get lost in those numbers because there's so much more I want to get to. In the United States, we are now over $71 trillion in debt. $21 trillion of that is the federal government. And that doesn't count what's called the unfunded liabilities. And if you haven't heard me talk about that before, when you get those numbers, whether it's the trillions for the pension funds or the trillions for Social Security and Medicare, that's not the shortfall they tell you. That is the amount of money you would have to invest today at whatever interest rate they used for that calculation in order to pay for everything, assuming all their assumptions are correct. So when you see Professor Kotlikoff do his annual thing with Social Security and Medicare, he uses the alternate fiscal scenario that the Congressional Budget Office puts out, and that yields a number that's not as friendly as what the Social Security Trustee Report has. And that's where he comes up with his $220 trillion, and that was calculated using a 3.9% interest rate, which that may change in the near term, too, because interest rates are going up. So, like I say, in order to get Social Security and Medicare on a solid footing, we would need $220 trillion right now invested at 3.9% interest, assuming all the Congressional Budget Office assumptions are correct. And neither their assumptions nor the Social Security trustee assumptions include the millions of jobs that are getting ready to be lost due to automation through robotics and artificial intelligence. That's just going to make all this worse. Now, we don't understand trillions of dollars. So let me try and put this into perspective. Trying to fix this. All the money in the world, and this is from the CIA World Fact Book, the December 31st, 2017 estimate, $86.47 trillion. That's the broad supply, not the narrow supply, which is basically just currency. This is all the deposit accounts and everything. Well, obviously, we don't have all the money in the world. We just have what's in the U.S., which is only $14 trillion. And since we can't even visualize that, let me try to put it this way. If our Social Security and Medicare problem were just $100, which I think we can imagine, we've probably held in our hand a $100 bill. If that was the problem, how do we solve it when all of the money in the world is only $39.30, and all the money we have in the U.S. is just $6.40? That's how big the difference is. And then even if you had that amount of money, where do you invest it to get the stated return? There's no real solution for it. You can't raise the rates high enough. You would have to lower benefits, and once the so-called trust funds run out, they're already saying it's going to be a 21 to 23% correction. You can increase the age of eligibility, or you can kill off the old people. Some combination of that will help. But let me explain why we can't even get things from going worse. And just to make the math a little easier, 200 trillion, that 4% is 8 trillion, is what the interest lost is, since we don't have the 200 and plus trillion invested. So how much is 8 trillion a year? Well, this is where I link to the IRS tax stats, so you can check my work here. They've now released the 2016 personal returns. There's a total of 10.2 trillion reported on personal returns. 7.2 trillion of that is what most of us consider income, wages, and salaries. So let's say you immediately doubled all the wages and salaries, which there's no way you could do that without, raising prices quite a bit. If you could immediately double all wages and salaries, and the government taxed 100% of all that increase, and they were able to invest it at that 3.9% interest, the problem is $7.2 trillion is nowhere near the $8 trillion that you would need just to keep things from getting worse. That's how bad the situation is, and if anybody running for office says otherwise, you can have the numbers in front of you and see how they're lying. But we're going to hit a bigger roadblock before then. I'll talk about that when we get back from the break.
No smiles today. Captain John Reagan's with us. We'll be right back. Captain John Reagan's with us, eze33.org, eze33.org. Bigger roadblock, Captain John? What's that?
Well, I think you can imagine that if you knew a family where what they have to pay for taxes and debt service is more than what they make, that family has a really bad problem. Well, the economy accounts for things like that, and people default and go bankrupt and all kinds of things. But it's much different when that's true of the entire country, and we're getting really, really close to that point where everything that we make is almost all going to government spending and debt service right now. And the numbers I'm getting ready to go into I haven't taken out transfer payments, which includes what the federal government pays to the states, and in some of those states, they actually get more from the federal government than they get from taxes from their own populace. So when I get to the point where I say we're getting to the point where, probably next term or whoever's elected 2024 at the latest during that term will reach the point where the government will owe more in interest every year than what they bring in through taxes. And obviously it doesn't have to get that bad before bad things start happening. I went back and looked at interest rates through previous presidents, and these are just approximates. I can't get into in 5 minutes how the math is off, but they're approximations. During the 8 years of Obama with the artificially low rates, the government spent 2.6% on interest. Going back to Carter, his 4 years, 5%. Reagan was 6.9%. Bush 7.9%, Clinton 6.5%, and then after the dot-com crash, the 8 years of Bush was 4.9%. So even if you only take 5%, which is kind of on the low end of what things were for the latter part of the 20th century, 5% of $20 trillion is $1 trillion a year, and we're just bringing a little bit over $1 trillion a year in taxes right now. So as those interest rates go back up, and most of this is financed with short-term debt, that's going to just make things worse and worse. Currently, we have government spending $7.2 trillion. That includes the transfer payments. Total interest is $3 trillion. If you take out what government spending on interest, that'd be about $2.5 trillion. And I used a 3% blended figure for principal on the $71 trillion of debt, which would be $2.1 trillion. So roughly, government spending and debt service is $11.8 trillion. Based on the 2016 personal returns, we had $10.2 trillion in income. The most recent we have for corporations, 2013 was $2.3 trillion. That's $12.5 trillion. So even if you count for growth being 14 or 15 trillion, that means government and debt service roughly 12 trillion of 14 trillion in income. You might get a couple of trillion or so from transfer payments, but point being is that we're in bad shape, and it's not going to get better. You're going to see the federal government going to have to cut back more and more even as they borrow more and more. And we already saw the first crack yesterday where Trump announced that he's cutting out the pay increases for civilian workers. And that isn't even a drop in this bucket. Vincent?
John, based on what you said, what are we looking at? Are we looking at Venezuela? Are we looking at riots? Are we looking at food shortages where people are eating cats, dogs, and anything that has legs? Is that what we're facing?
Well, people that are dependent on the government, and that includes government workers, I don't know where their income is going to come from. So it's going to get ugly. And even if you cancel the debt, a lot of that debt is owned by retirement funds. And, it's just bad any way you look at it.
So we're saying that the retirement funds are not going to be able to pay out to those who are expecting the payments because they won't have it. Is that what you're saying?
Even worse than what we know about now.
Okay, Captain John, I hope you can come back with us again soon and finish the rest of this terrifying discussion. That's above all honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.